The Springboks travelled to Wales this weekend to play Wales in their second to last warm-up game before the 2023 Rugby World Cup, and this video is a full review of that game. Hello and welcome to Inside Rugby. My name's Mark. I'm a Kiwi living in Cancun, Mexico, and I'm bringing you all the news from the rugby world, including previews and reviews of the warm-up games leading into the Rugby World Cup, and of course the Rugby World Cup coverage itself right here on Inside Rugby. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Now in this video I'm going to be talking about Wales versus South Africa, a game important for both teams as they look forward to getting their combinations together for this year's Rugby World Cup. I want to go through what I think the expectations would have been from each of the coaches before this game got underway. So I think from a Wales point of view, Warren Gatland would have been looking for some good combinations from the Welsh players because he hasn't picked his side until Monday, and it's going to give those players on the peripheral another opportunity to step up and say that they want to be counted for this particular Wales team. The unfortunate situation that happened for Wales before this game, they lost three of their key players from the backs. Dan Beggar, Liam Williams and Alex Cuthbert were all considered injured for this particular game, or were injured for this game, and that took a lot of experience out of this team for Wales. So now in addition to that, it would have been a good opportunity for Gatland to look at his team when they're playing one of the top teams in the world, and Wales haven't come across one of the top teams yet in the warm-up competition, so it was going to be a good opportunity to see how this particular team performs under pressure and against the excellence of the top tier of rugby nations, and I think Gatland was looking forward to that. So either way, he was going to learn a lot, I think, from this particular game on players playing under pressure and how they deal with some of the best players in the world. Looking from Jacques Nienaber's point of view, I think he would have been looking for a number of takeaways from this game as well. Of course, Siya Kolisi coming back into the team after that horrendous injury, and everybody wanted to make sure that Kolisi got through this game unscathed. He was probably going to get somewhere between 40 and 50 minutes. In addition to that, he would have wanted to see an expansive game from Springboks and seeing them dominate first of all in the forwards to set up that potential of a running game, and also looking for Manie Libbok to improve his percentage of goal kicking. That's been something that's been a little bit of a nemesis for Manie Libbok as he's gone through these warm-up games. So I think those are some of the pointers that Jacques Nienaber would have been looking for from the Springboks as they went into this game. Of course, immense talent out wide with Cheslin Kolbe and Canan Moodie, and I think that the game plan would have been for the Springboks to get the ball out to those two players as quickly and as much as possible. We haven't seen Kolbe getting a lot of ball in the other games, and the expectation was high that he was going to get really involved in this game against Wales. So I think that would have been some of the leading things moving into this game for both of the coaches and what they were looking for from their respective teams. So from a Wales point of view, we had Sam Costello coming in at first 5'8". He played against England and didn't do too bad in that game. So he was going to have a lot of pressure on him, particularly with the South African loose forwards coming through and cutting down his time and space. So Wales had a couple of good passages play in the first 2 minutes or so of the game, but then the South Africans got the ball and took off up the other end of the field, and we started to see what was going to be the trend for this game. So the ball came out from a breakdown. It went wide to Kolisi, who did a great pass and assisted Malcolm Marx going in for the first South African try. And it was a very good try created by both the backs and the forwards for South Africa. Open, expansive play, and it just showed what the mindset was going to be of the Springboks team as we headed through the first half of the game. Both Canan Moodie and Cheslin Kolbe got to see the ball quite often in the first 20 minutes, and it wasn't long before Moodie himself went in for a good try after the South Africans made a break down the right hand side. Moodie stepped back inside and went over in some pretty soft tackles from Wales. So it was a really good try to South Africa, and it showed their intention in this game, and Moodie delivered. I really like Canan Moodie. I think he's a great young player. I think he's going to be a superstar for South Africa in the years to come. He's got a lot of pace, he's got a great sidestep, he's good under the high ball. and he's not too bad in defence as well. So I think he's only going to grow as a great player. So I think Jacques Nienaber is putting some faith in him, giving him some good warm-up time as we head towards the World Cup. And yeah, watch out for Kane and Moody. I think he's going to be exceptional. So Wales were able to keep into this game by a couple of penalties and indiscretions at breakdown time by South Africa. And Sam Costello got a couple of penalties over for Wales, would actually put Wales in the lead of this game, probably against the run of play, because South Africa were creating more opportunities and definitely looking more dangerous as the game went on. And then late in the first half, we saw something that we don't like to see in any rugby game, and that's the TMO's involvement over a controversy. And what happened was South Africa was attacking down the right-hand side of the field. There was a collision between, well, not a collision, there was a competition between Moody and Rio Dyer for Wales in the in-goal area of the Welsh goal line. And Moody had actually run past the ball and trying to get it to score a try. And Dyer banged it with his arm over the sideline, and it took some time for Brace, the referee, to get a decision out of the TMO. And I never like this, because the longer it goes on, it just shows that we're in for some controversy. Now, this was a pretty fine line, this one. It could have gone either way, I thought. Dyer was really in no man's land when it came to doing something with the ball. He couldn't get his foot to it. It was a very high bouncing ball. So the only thing he could really do was to swat the ball or try to catch it. And because of the speed that this all happened, catching it wasn't really an option. So he went for swatting it. And after a lengthy time frame from the TMO to make a decision, it was deemed that it was intentional, and Dyer was sent off with a yellow card, and South Africa were given a penalty try. I don't think it would have made any difference to the outcome of the game in the end, but it did create more momentum at the time for South Africa. So Wales on the back foot after that try. And then just a couple of minutes later, disaster for Wales as Damian Dealande would put a kick through, and it was a great weighted kick. It went right into the in goal of the Welsh line, and Macy Grady, who was back and seemed to have the ball under control, had a bit of a brain fade and decided to try and pass the ball from the position he was in. He was already behind the goal line. He passed the ball to Jesse Kriel, and Kriel, all he had to do was touch the ball down for a Springbok try. So from a penalty try to a disaster situation for Wales, and I guess it started giving Warren Gatland some of the answers that he was looking for from this game, with looking at how his players would play under this type of pressure from one of the top teams in the world. He was definitely getting his answers. So the Springboks had already dashed out to 24 points to 9 at half-time. They were dominating the game. Some of their players that were really making themselves prominent in that first half included Malcolm Marx, who was doing great work in the breakdowns and winning penalties for the Springboks in that area. I thought the three front rowers for the Springboks, and Malherbe, Marx and Kitsoff, were playing extremely well against Wales, disrupting them at scrum time and winning a lot of ball. In the locks for the Springboks, R.G. Snyman and Jean Klein were playing very well, both getting set piece ball, but also looking really good in the breakdown situations. And of course, in the back three, we were seeing massive games from Kalesi and also Peter Steph de Toy, who was everywhere for the Springboks. If we were to point a finger in that first half, I think Manny Lebok's kicking was off. He missed a number of kicks, and there was two particular kicks during strategic play that he didn't really kick with great intention either. So being a little bit critical, I really like Manny Lebok. I think he's a great number 10. The more he plays in that position and gets opportunities for South Africa, the better he's going to be. But he just did a couple of things that were just a marginal off scope in that first half, and it could have led to more points for South Africa. But I think Jacques Nienaber will be more concerned about the percentage of goal kicking from Lebok, because in the Rugby World Cup, we all know those 3 points every now and again is going to be certainly very critical in some of the key games in this year's Rugby World Cup. So a fantastic first half of rugby by the Springboks. They shut Wales out in that first 40 minutes, and one saw this game only going one of two ways, and that was that Springboks were going to put it to Wales in the second half, and we were going to see whether or not Wales had the fight in them to come back and try to win that second half. And I'm sure that's the message that Warren Gatland would have said to his team at half time, was to get out there, put pride in that Welsh jersey and see whether you can beat the Springboks in the second half. Well, as the second half got underway, it was only a minute or so before Siya Kolisi was replaced by Van Staden, and Oni came to replace Captain Courageous, and I think everybody was happy that Kolisi not only came on and lasted for that 41 or 2 minutes, but he also played very well in that time with some really good tackles. Of course, the try assist for Malcolm Marks, and he was seen all around the field. So I'm sure that run would have been a good hit out for Siya Kolisi as he gets ready now for his next Rugby World Cup and to try and be the captain defending the Rugby World Cup for South Africa. And then it wasn't too much into that second half where we saw a great intercept by Peter Steph du Toit, who was playing outstanding in this game and didn't quite have the legs to go the whole length of the pitch as Wales were on attack at the time. And he passed it to Jesse Creel, who was great in support, and Creel ran through the rest of the Welsh defence to score a try right under the post. So the South Africans started the second half just the way they wanted to and kept putting points on the Welsh team. Karma is a good thing in rugby, isn't it? And just a few minutes after that try, Peter Steph du Toit got his own try where South Africa were on attack, several phases of play through the forwards, and he dove over the try line with R.G. Schneemann on his back, and that was a good try for Peter Steph du Toit. Very well deserved. He'd been immense up into that stage of the game, both in the breakdowns and getting loose ball for the South Africans, being very disruptive around the rucks and the mauls, and also doing his job in the set piece. I think he was one of the outstanding players for the Springboks this weekend. So up until this stage of the game, the Welsh didn't really have any answers to the Springboks. The Springboks were getting the ball wide. Every time Moody or Cheslin Colby got the ball, they looked very dangerous. Dealende had done that great kick through to help Jesse Creel get his first try. And he was also big in defence as well, and helping the Springboks keep the Welsh out from any forms of attack. The Welsh didn't seem to have any answers. Every time Johnny Williams got the ball or Macy Grady got the ball trying to head towards the Springbok line, they were shut down very effectively by the Springboks smothering defence, and that was another element of the game that I think Jacques Nienaber will be very, very happy with. So it wasn't much longer after the Peter Steph du Toit try that we saw another try from South Africa, and this time Canan Moody was going in for his second try. Another intercept off a poor Welsh pass going through the back line, but credit to Moody, he was positioning himself very well to get that intercept, and once he got the ball secure, there was no stopping him as he headed towards the Welsh line. So 2 tries in this game for Moody, an outstanding performance, and as I've already said in this video, I really rate this guy, and I think we're going to see some magical things from him in this year's Rugby World Cup. Just 4 years ago, he was at school in South Africa dreaming about this particular moment, so isn't it a wonderful thing to see a young guy get his dreams coming true and playing outstanding rugby for South Africa? Damien Willemse had come on to replace Willie Leroux, and it wasn't long before he got into the action, and from a great pass from Mani Lebok, put Willemse into a gap and over for the next South African try. So it was basically turning into a cricket score now for South Africa. They were running riot both in the forwards and in the backs. Everybody looked dangerous when they got the ball, and Wales really started capitulating. And when the Springboks brought on the bomb squad to replace the front row, the intensity only increased, and I was very impressed with Bonami, Oxnashea, and also Vincent Koch. When he came on, they really didn't lose anything at all, South Africa. And in fact, with the way that Oxnashea played, he really stepped up around the breakdown in this particular game and won some really good ball for the Springboks. So they were really up for it, this Springboks team, and everybody played their part, and the reserves that came on for the Springboks really gave it to Wales and kept that momentum going. And that's going to be something that's very important, I think, in the Rugby World Cup games, when teams make their replacements, whether or not they can keep that momentum going, particularly if they're in the lead of a game, as they were, and South Africa were dominating at the time that the replacements came on, and they kept their pedal to the metal and kept the pressure on Wales, which was another thing that I think Jacques Nienaber would be very happy to see from this Springbok team. So in the 72nd minute, Parry, who had come on as the replacement hooker for Wales, scored a consolation try for Wales, and that was about the best that they could have done this particular game. It was just too much domination from the Springboks, and Wales really never had an opportunity to get in the game. Unfortunately, young Teddy Williams came on for Wales to have his first test match in the red jersey, and he was given a yellow card just moments later, so not a great memory for him to go away with his first game, but I'm sure he'll be back playing many more tests for the Welsh. So the Springboks won the first half 24-9, and they won the second half 28-7. So a dominating performance indeed. I think they got better as the game went on. You could feel their confidence starting to grow more and more. And I think for the first time in the warm-up games, we saw the real South African expansive game come out and play. And of course, they'd only lost that one game to the All Blacks in Auckland, and they'd won the rest of their warm-up games to this stage. So they have been building a lot of confidence in this team, and it started to show really truly on the field at the Principality Stadium yesterday. So when a team gets beaten as badly as Wales did yesterday, it's hard to pick any standout players, but for me, Dwyer had a good game while he was on the field. He looked dangerous, he looked like he was full of running potential. He just didn't see enough quality ball from his inside backs and forwards. Jack Morgan had a good game. He was the captain again yesterday for Wales, and he's an impressive young player who I'm sure is going to get many more starts for Wales, and he was good in a poor Welsh performance yesterday. I thought the halves didn't do too well for Wales. They were under a lot of pressure all the time, so Sam Costello didn't really have an opportunity to get that back line firing, and some of his strategic kicks weren't the best either. South Africa were able to run them back with interest on them, particularly in the second half. I did think Dee and Wainwright did well for the Welsh at line-out time. They were steady in the first half and won consistently most of their ball. Evans had a good game for Wales as well, but unfortunately their front tight three of Azarati, Dee and Domichowski had trouble against the strong South African tight three. And I think in particular, if we look at Marx's performance, Malherbe and Stephen Kitsoff, we can see their world-class front row that's going to take on anybody in the world of rugby, and they definitely dealt it out to the Welsh yesterday. So I think Warren Gatland probably got his answers from this game in terms of those players that really didn't step up too well in the face of adversity when they're under a lot of pressure from one of the top teams in the world. On the flip side though, I think Jacques Nienaber would have been very happy with this performance from South Africa, perhaps except for that kicking performance from Manie Libbok when it comes to his percentages. But South Africa looked dangerous right across the field. Again, Peter Steph du Toit was great. Dwayne Vermeulen came on at the end of the game and had a bit of a showcase run there. Everybody will be happy that Khaleesi is back and playing great rugby after that horrific injury. So all in all, I think it was more than a great day's work for Springboks. They ended up with a historic win over Wales at the Principality Stadium yesterday. So 52 points to 16 was the final score, and I'd be really interested to know what you thought of that Springboks performance yesterday. Was that their best game so far this season? Did we see the combinations working? Were you impressed as I was with the South African backline? Or are there any changes that you would make to that backline that played yesterday? I think the forwards were outstanding for South Africa, and they really set up this win for them against Wales. So Warren Gatland's going to go away, and on Monday he's going to announce his Rugby World Cup squad. It's going to be very interesting to see who he includes in that squad to go forward, and I think a couple of names that were playing yesterday might be missing out after that particular performance. So don't forget, Wales are ranked number 10 in the world currently. South Africa is number 4, and after that performance yesterday, we can see the gulf that exists between the top teams, I think, and the second tier teams across the world. So with Ireland, France, the All Blacks and Springboks playing the way they are at the moment, I think they're going to be perhaps the most dangerous teams at this year's Rugby World Cup. But stand by, I'm going to be making some videos on us leading up to the Rugby World Cup, my predictions around each of the pool games, and who I think is going to come out as the surprise packages at this year's Rugby World Cup. So the way that you can keep abreast of all that news is to hit the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up if you like it, and let me know what your thoughts are on the Wales versus South Africa game yesterday, played at the Principality Stadium. Really interested to hear your feedback, particularly around the Welsh team. What is Warren Gatland going to do now with his selection? Are there going to be any bolters? And do you think Jacques Nienaber is going to be very happy after yesterday's game? Okay, that's it for me from this video. I'll be back again soon with another one. Until then, stay safe, stay well, and enjoy your rugby, everyone. Bye for now.